Teachers of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing a student answered to tell me a fun fact about yourself? I had a student tell me that sometimes his dad got drunk and asked his mom for things. As I was starting to tell him he didn't need to elaborate any further, he continued with like soup and he yells it like so up. It took every bit of restraint to not laugh. It's been years and years since that happened, but I still laugh when I think about it. We need the so up. Not a teacher, but this happened when I was 17 at school camp during a bonding exercise. Teacher, tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself and we have to guess the lie. Weird kid. I play PlayStation. I like Doritos and I am an alcoholic. The teacher, the lie is you are an alcoholic. Weird kid. Got you. I play Xbox. My god, the look on the teacher's face. Not surprised at all, sadly. I hear stories about kids cutting C in the library. I teach middle school. This one still takes the cake. That is, mom and dad have the same parents. I asked him to clarify because I didn't understand what he was saying and he said I only have one set of grandparents. They had the same parents. I quickly moved to the next student so no one else would realize that this kid just told the class that his parents were siblings. I talked to him about it the next day in private and he said that he got it mixed up. His parents don't have the exact same parents. They shared a dad. I felt so much better when the mom called me to let me know her elderly stepfather married her husband's elderly mother. Still weird, but much better. My mom married her brother-in-law. That was always confusing when I started telling people as a kid. In my public speaking class at a community college, we had to get up and do a speech about our experience that really changed our lives or an important memory and how it made us who we are. On the first day, a guy who was a veteran volunteered to go first. He proceeded to talk about the day he was captured and was physically shamed by enemy soldier and how he now goes around and helps other soldiers with the Wounded Warrior Project. It was difficult for anybody to follow that. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. Next guy comes up like the day my mom stopped doing my laundry. My arm is fricked, y'all, in the deepest southern drawl, and proceeded to wildly swing his fricked up arm around. He was 12, had Erb's palsy and also got detention that day. He might be one of my fav students. I can play this in my head and it is hilarious. Opposite side of the classroom, but on day 1 of class our professor spent most of the time talking about himself, his mental health, and how he was friendly with students. While he didn't say anything specifically creepy, the more he talked, the more put off I was. It just seemed deeper than a get to know you as the first time I'm meeting you speech should have gone. It was an intro to research class and I already had research experience, so I got permission to waive it and I dropped the class. Later learned he killed his previous TA girlfriend before killing himself. I have several questions. Not a teacher, but I just did a first aid course. During introductions, say your name and 1 fact about yourself. Dude says proudly he once had over 300k of unpaid parking tickets. A student, not a teacher, but once we were going around a circle during percussion camp in the front ensemble and my teacher goes, "Hello everyone, my name is," and I have crap my pants as an adult. Definitely one of the weirder ones I've heard. Knowing drummers, I'm not a bit surprised. Student told me that there is a chapter dedicated to him in a dental surgery textbook because of a very rare disorder that he had as a child. I may still have that essay. During French class, a guy in my class said that he liked stabbing children. He meant that he fences but didn't know the exact translation for that. I love the French class fun facts. In a beginner French class, I had to accidentally come out to the class when I was asked whether I had a spouse. Jesus un lesbian. It was awkward. I said my dad steal cars. It was something my parents always told us growing up as a joke. The teacher just laughed and said that's nice. My dad used to joke that he was off to the coal mines every morning. He also never told me what his job actually was, so I just believed that he worked in the coal mines despite the fact that we lived in Southern California and he wore a suit and tie to work every day. He was the CFO of a subsidiary of a company you've probably heard of. I was just a little bit off. During an introductory activity for my new class, a boy, age 9, got up and said my dog has to wear a cone on its head because dad had his bollocks cut off. Dang English language. At first I thought the dog bit off the father's balls. I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the crap on her bed. I asked her to clarify, worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, I brush my teeth, wash face and clean bed crap. Bedsheet. Not a teacher, but I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl, who seemed uninterested, said, with no hesitation, that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. Brutal. I'm a middle school teacher and I find that most adults who don't spend much time around kids don't realize just how young middle schoolers are. I mean, LOL immature middle schoolers is kind of a meme, but seriously, we are talking about 11-year-olds here. My dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I am feeling frustrated minus 5-year-old child. I will say the question was how are you doing this morning, but I could barely keep from laughing out loud. I have vibes. My toddler once told visiting friends that daddy takes long poops. I mean, I was having a flare up and had some extended bathroom sessions. But, dang little dude, not cool. I'm terrified amused about what he might share at school in the near future. Not a teacher, but a few years ago on the first day of school this kid in one of my classes casually answered, I have a restraining order on my dad. That's actually a smart move. Now everyone in class knows that this father can't come pick him up. I am not a teacher, but this guy in my class named Shane has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school. He would say I'm Shane and I'm very hairy. He could say my name is Shane, but friends call me Harry. We did one of those 2 truths 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports. I knew this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin, so picked that one. Nope. She had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one as she'd been to Mexico. Not me but my brother. He told the teacher last night my family ate beaver for dinner. I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She chewed them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper and he had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although my brother was telling the truth, he told me later that he did say that for the effect, disrupting the class. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade, we would do this weekly how was your weekend sort of thing where we'd sit in a circle and share. This one girl casually goes, I found out that my biological father didn't want me in a super nonchalant tone and everything. I still remember the awkward tension. That he has been to Juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he pulled up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle monitor. That was something. Then he pulled up his pants. Not actually the worst direction he could have pulled his pants, though. I teach ESL and every lesson we start the class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce a rule that they need to share good things so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death lol. One day, a student said, I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell. I could see where it was going but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule when he just spat out. I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood, a lot of blood. I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, it's good because I'm still alive. I had a good laugh and agreed, but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. Once the boulder had started rolling, you can't stop it. I hate when this happens. My friend is really quiet. He doesn't really talk unless talked to. He's really cool though and has some things he enjoys doing. Literally 2nd year I knew him. The teacher asked this and he said he's a professional bowler with a 300 best. And I was like, why haven't you told Emmy this? That's amazing. I guess it just never came up. Haha. Knew him for a whole year and never knew that. Guess he had a spare fact. Had students, age 11, sharing strategies for dealing with difficult emotions. one at a time in a big circle. One girl talked about digging her nails into her face whenever she was feeling stressed or anxious, and I had to explain to the class why self-harm was not a good coping strategy. When I was in my first year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say his or her name and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name, and the professor interrupted him by asking Anon, "Are you related to X?" The guy, "Yes professor, he is my grandfather." Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy X is and that he haven't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was. Anon replied, "He is dead sir." The whole class was trying to hold the laughter. It pretty much broke the class that first day. At least he said good things about the grandpa instead of calling him an shat and finding out after he was deceased. Someone in a class once told everyone about how his grandparents were arrested for keep a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young, but he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yup, fun fact. I'm not a teacher. This person who told the story was in a class with me as a young adult. In my psychology class, we were talking about the early signs of serial killers, and the quietest girl who never spoke told the story of when she lived in Chicago. She had a friend around 5th grade who would always stomp on baby birds and once put his hamster in the microwave. Well, his parents were having difficulty keeping up with his antics, so they sent him to his grandmother's, who he promptly stabbed to death when she woke him up for school. So that was interesting. I'm shifting in my chair just thinking of this exchange. A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people working and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his passion was wondering. He dropped out like 2 months later. Modern day Diogenes. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high school class, a girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. I was in one of the first small required classes for my teaching degree and everyone in the class was studying to teach. It was day 2 or 3 and we were doing a get to know you activity where we share something about ourselves. I don't remember the exact question, but it had something to do with what you regret take back. A guy came in late, when almost everyone has answers the question, and the professor asked him the questions and he thought for a moment and said, "I regret letting my friend talking me into dropping acid." The class was silent for a good 20 seconds until the professor said, "Maybe next time we only share things that are legal." I hadn't seen him in any other teacher classes since. Still laugh about it to this day. That question is such a setup. I mean, dude shouldn't have admitted to dropping acid, but that's a hard one to come up with an answer for on the spot that doesn't make you look bad unless it's something eye roll worthy, like I regret not finding my passion for teaching sooner. I have 2 thumbs on this hand. I am raising cockroaches in my closet to sell to the reptile shop. I want to clarify that these quotes come from different kids, but it's definitely more entertaining to imagine them being the same. Also, I learned so much about cockroach raising from the comments. I wish I had asked more follow-up questions at the time. Hey, Juvie roach colonies are a decent side hustle. It wasn't weird, but actually cute and funny. I was teaching 5th grade and this kid, white as paper, goes, "My name is, but you can call me LeBron." He had an obsession with LeBron James and I did in fact call him LeBron whenever I wanted to get his attention. Great kid. Dang, are you my English teacher? Cause this sounds like something she would do. I'm a teacher from the UK, form tutor to a year 7 class, 11-year-olds. To get to know each other on the first day I had them take it in turns to say their name, which primary school they've come from and an interesting fact, like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in the class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. LOL, that's like my brother. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand, but he had them removed as a baby. When he found out around age 10, he got so mad because he said he could have been really cool and really fast at typing. My first year, As an earnest and ideological teacher in a very rough and underserved area, I got all the students in a circle on the first day to talk about what we'd done that summer. I pointed to a student who'd been engaged me before class and said, "What did you do this summer that could inspire us?" His answer, "I did the last 2 months of a sentence for stealing a car." I hadn't expected that. So I pointed to another student and said, "Okay, that's great. Let's talk about what you did this summer." That student said, "Yes, I had such a good summer. I went to camp and," laughing, "Lem stop lying. I did the last 2 months of a sentence with that guy cause I stole that car him. That's freaking great." Taught elementary school the past few years. One kid told me he was a dragon when he was born but changed into a human as he got older. He was absolutely convinced and couldn't be persuaded. Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asks her for a fun fact and she said, "I like to watch people get cut open." She obviously said it for effect, but she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. The explanation is just as bad. Even though I'm a professor, nothing that's ever been revealed by this question has ever been as awkward or uncomfortable as an occasion that happened when I was still a student. This was when I was in my MFA program for creative writing. If you've never been in an arts program before, it probably won't surprise you to learn that they can attract some weird personalities. It was the first day of a fiction workshop and the professor decided that he wanted us to all share something interesting about ourselves, and for some reason one girl, Ashley, decided that this would be a good opportunity for her to tell us about her long history of drug abuse and the equally long period of mental psychosis she went through as a result of it. She didn't do this as a quick answer either, but as a long drawn out list of every single drug she had ever experimented with, followed by a catalog of every single delusion she suffered as a result. The only one I can remember now is that at one point she became convinced she was a millionaire and her family was hiding her money from her. All of this was delivered in a monotone monologue with her eyes glazed over that lasted at least 5 minutes, which was met at the end with a long, awkward silence before the professor said, "Well, that was definitely something interesting," and moved on to the next person. I was teaching a 10th grade honors English class once and this pleasant young woman busted out the C word. "See you next Tuesday." I hadn't had any trouble with her whatsoever, so I was a bit shocked. The whole class went dead silent. I told her she couldn't use that word in class and she was confused as to which word I was referring to. Finally, I said the C word. She repeated it and then admitted she didn't know there was anything wrong with it because her parents use it at home all the time. The rest of the class let her know it was bizarre that she was using it. She was not Australian. I don't ask for a fun fact, but on the first day I always ask, "What's your most recent obsession?" Low stakes, building affinity networks, etc., etc. In my first semester, a student said air, as in oxygen. I tried to make conversation with a 6th grade boy who didn't have any friends in my class. I asked him what music he listens to and he said Mukbang soundscapes. If you don't know, Mukbang is when people eat a ridiculous amount of food in one setting. I'm a student, but a kid in my class said that he loves chicken nuggets, then sat down and didn't say anything to anyone else for a month. I have so much admiration yet confusion for him. Nugget is real. OMG, not a teacher, but the student, introducing ourselves around our grade 10 social studies class, and my intro goes, "Hi, I'm Catbum4, I'm blah 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 and I really like trees. Like I swear I have a tree fetish." The teacher gives me a WTF look and goes okay, and quickly moves on. I confused fetish with the word obsession. Still weird, but holy smokes, I did not mean to say I'm physically attracted to trees. One guy, I love our rat pay. Sometimes I are rat pay. Sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to our rat pay. Some of my favorite our rat pairs include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite our rat pay song is English Was Not His First Language. He had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, the continuation was to make it clear and everyone figured out what he meant once he started listed the famous our rat pairs. Not a teacher, but a guy in a handful of my high school classes used to always say he met Tron Jeremy if the class was doing 2 truths and a lie. He wasn't lying, and would always show the class the picture they took together. I'm a trainer at a bank, and I've learned some really interesting things about my colleagues doing icebreakers. One guy used to be in a pretty successful metal band. Another can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. Yes, I made him prove it. One woman was a professional pianist for a while, and another can read tarot cards. I'm seriously thinking of putting on an employee talent show. Along the same avenue, after an winter half term, the teacher asked, "How was your break?" My class was silent for some glorious seconds when it was my turn, and I said, "Well, my granddad died and my dad got married, yes, in that order." My teacher asked my mum if it was true at parents' evening a few days later. "Sorry, mister. More. Hamlet version 2. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.